thy feet, oh, I do bow.
Good evening and Jai Guru, dear friends. Let us begin our class with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Sri Yukteswar Ji, Beloved Gurudev Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, Friend and Guide Swami Kriyananda Ji, Sages Vedvyas, Patanjali, Adi Shankaracharya, humbly we bow and touch thy feet. Dear God, thou hast given me all I need. Help me to know thee first, and then use thy wisdom to desire and to do only what you will. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let us invoke the presence of the Gurus by singing the hymn to Brahma. Happy Durga Navami to all. Jai Ma, Jai Durga Ma, Ma Durga Ma, Jai Durga Ma. Jai Ma, Jai Durga. Mentally bow down at the feet of Ma Durga. Let's pray to her that she give us the moral vigor so that our mind is purified and that we are led to her home soon. Let us hear a few thoughts on moral vigor by Swami Kriyananda. Lack of moral vigor saps the will and makes the intellect sponge-like, ready to absorb the prevalent opinion of the times. People with good intellects often suffer from the Hamlet complex, the inability to come to any decision or to commit oneself to anything. They justify their indecision by saying, I want to be fair to all sides. But even an imperfect action is better than no action at all. When you believe in something, stand by it. When you believe in someone, stand by him. Such loyal self-commitment is a higher law than seeing all sides. Energy is needed to accomplish anything in life. With moral vigor, all things are possible. But without it, the end of every act is failure. Let us do this following affirmation. The decisions that I make in life come from within myself, from my sense for what is right. I am committed to the truth and to channeling it outward to the world. The decisions that I make in life come from within myself, from my sense for what is right. I am committed to the truth and to channeling it outward to the world. The decisions that I make in life come from within myself, from my sense for what is right. I am committed to the truth and to channeling it outward to the world. Let us offer this prayer mentally. Divine Mother, with every action of my will, let me express thy divine vitality, thy truth, thy perfection. Let me live to serve thee alone, or else die in the attempt. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Good evening, dear friends. Let us begin the study of the sutras today. And just as a quick revision, let us see what we did in the last few classes. So predominantly in the last class, we studied how abhyas and vairagya, how practice and dispassion or non-attachment can lead us towards the state of yogas chitta vritti nirodha, or towards the state of samadhi. And then Patanjali described in some sutras the sabhikalp or the sampragyat samadhi and the nirvikalp or the asampragyat samadhi. And the main difference between the two is that in sabhikalpa samadhi, the sense of I-ness still remains. There is still a separateness between the meditator and the one being meditated upon. While in nirvikalpa samadhi, that separation goes away and there is only oneness. And in that state, the person becomes a jivan mukta, and that all he needs to now address is the past karma, And once that is resolved, the soul becomes a param mukta, and all the need to be reborn on this earth is gone. And only if the soul desires to help other souls in evolving spiritually, he comes back down and he takes the human form, and as the guru he helps others to evolve and uplift into the spiritual ladder. And the last verse, the last sutra that we did last time was Sutra 20. And according to that, the conditions were given of how one can reach Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And I will read it again. The sutra said, Shraddha Virya Smriti Samadhi Pragna Purvak Itresam. Meaning, for the others here means, because in the previous sutra he had mentioned that those who are prakriti layas and those who are demigods, they have attained to an extent nirvikalpa samadhi, but for others who are still struggling, that highest state of samadhi is attained through faith, that is shraddha, strength of will and energy, which is virya, through mindfulness or memory, which is smriti, and through concentration or sabikalpa samadhi, there's single concentration on one object, and then through viveka, discrimination. So these are the ways in which we can attain nirvikalpa samadhi. And then he goes on in the next sutra, Sutra 21, says, Tivra samveganam asanaha. What does this mean? Tivra, we know, means intensive and vigorous. Samveg means enthusiasm, the impulse, the energy of doing something. And asana, in this sense, is not the yogasana that we talk about. It means bringing closer to, bringing nigh, bringing near to the possibility. We are bringing in proximity. So that means this can be simply translated as Swami Ji has done. He says, with keen and one-pointed practice, this highest attainment comes easily. So for all of us who are looking at Nirvikalpa Samadhi or Yoga Sthiti or Chitta Nirodha as our final goal, it says one-pointed intense practice can lead us into this state. And in fact, if we are single-pointed, this attainment can come easily. Keen, we know, means intense. So what do we mean by one-pointed concentration? That means when you do not allow any other thought to come into your mental sky, when you fix yourself on one thought and then eventually go into the thoughtless state, that would mean intense. That would mean single-pointed concentration. Now, these aspects, Swamiji says it's difficult. It's difficult to attain intense, concentration. It's difficult to attain one-pointed concentration. Why? Firstly, because of our past habit. Now, this brings us to that state of the mind that we have. We are usually in the Kshipta state of mind, which is always jumping from one thought to another, one object to another, one feeling to another. So the restless state of mind has become our habit, especially in the modern world. And this past habit, this does not allow us to intensely focus single-pointedly. The other reason is that because of the senses, the mind is automatically called outwards into the outer world. So if your eyes are open, your ears are open, and you're in a crowded, chaotic environment, your eyes are receiving so much data, ears are receiving data, there are smells in the air, and people are touching you, you're crossing their paths. So much data, sensory input is entering your system that the mind cannot become still. It is bound to be restless. It is bound to be in the Kshipta state. So therefore, although Patanjali has said it very easily that doing this will make your attainment of samadhi easy, but yet we know from daily life that this is not so easy. But it is important to remember, Swamiji says, success is nearest to those whose efforts are intense and sincere. So again, we are brought to the 12th sutra, which says Abhyas and Vairagya. तो हमें यही जीवन जीते रहना है, हम इससे भाग नहीं सकते. तो हमें लेकिन निरंतर अभ्यास करना है और अंदर विड्रॉ करना है. क्योंकि हमारी सेंसेस हमें आउटवर्ड पुल करती हैं, तो यदि हम रेगुलर मेडिटेशन की प्रैक्टिस करेंगे, इफ वी प्रैक्टिस क्रिया योगा रेगुलरली, इफ वी प्रैक्टिस होंगसा रेगुलरली, then automatically we kind of what Guruji said, he said you should break the cords of the sense telephones, so you automatically avoid the data that comes into you. And when you sit for meditation, you're sitting in a silent place, you're closing your eyes, you're withdrawing from the world, so that satisfies one condition for one pointed concentration. Although it is true that once you attain the state of nirvikalpa samadhi, it doesn't matter if you're in the midst of a crowd, in the midst of a chaotic place, because you can maintain that state of oneness forever. But for us who are aspiring yogis, who are seeking together on this path, we need to do a lot of practice and non-attachment. Therefore, meditation must be practiced regularly so that our consciousness is in the habit of withdrawing itself within, inside, from the world. And sincere effort, of course, without sincere effort. And what does sincere effort mean? Sincere effort would also involve the bhav of the heart, the feeling of the heart. Unless you have that intense desire for salvation, which is called mumukshutva, unless that is there, your effort for one pointed concentration is always going to be lacking. Your abhyasa and vairagya is always going to be lacking. So therefore, it is important that whatever you practice, it is done with love, with involvement of your feelings, as well as your reasoning mind, and then putting it towards one pointedness, and then bringing it towards stillness. This brings us to the next sutra, Sutra 22. In this, Patanjali says, Mridyu madhya adhimatra tataha api visheshaha. This means mridu is mild, madhya is moderate or medium, adhimatra means extreme, intense or strong, tataha means from these, api also, vishesha is specialty or types. This means the practice or the means are classified into three kinds as mild, moderate and strong. Swamiji says, the time required for success depends also on whether one's practice is mild, medium or intense. So, अब ये बहुत क्लियर है, पतंजलि ने कह दिया अभ्यास करना है, वैराग्य करना है, वन पॉइंटेड कॉन्सेंट्रेशन करनी है, साथ में श्रद्धा होनी चाहिए, और ये सब बातें बता दी हैं। और फिर उन्होंने कहा है कि आपके जो सक्सेस है वो इस पर निर्भर करेगी कि आपकी ये प्रैक्टिसेस जो हैं ये माइल्ड हैं कि मॉडरेट हैं कि इंटेंस हैं. So let's just take a moment here and let me just put this question out to everybody, and just a heart-to-heart conversation as what do you think your practices? Do you think your practices are mild, moderate, or intense? If anybody wants to share their thoughts about this, you're welcome to do so. Please unmute yourself and please share with all of us. If anybody wants to go into their little bit introspect into their spiritual life and wants to accept wherever they are, we're all seekers together. So yes, Ekta.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, good morning.
So
you're in Canada. Yeah, good. We are here.
Oh yes. Good evening, everybody. So yes, I believe that many times my practice is intense, but sometimes it also happens that it is mild as well. It's when the concentration is not to that extent which it should be. So yes, my target every time is that it should be the highest intense, and many times I'm able to achieve it as well.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Ekta. And this is what Master said. Master said sometimes that the duration of your meditation may not be as important as the intensity of your meditation. If even for a minute you can go deep within yourself in your meditation and you can touch that infinite which is present in you, you have done your job. But sometimes let us remember that to achieve that 1 minute of deep contact, we need to sit for an hour. So again, regular practice, sincere practice will have to be done. By longer, deeper Guru-given meditation comes the celestial samadhi. This is the promise of the Guru and it has to come true. Now it is up to us whether we want to keep our practices lukewarm or wishy-washy, or we want to be very steadfast on this path and towards this goal. It is so entirely here, according to this sutra, the key has been given to you. The ball has been put in our court. So God says, here are the keys. The sages say, okay, here are the keys. This is what you need to do. Now you decide. You decide how fast you want to reach to your goal, and accordingly, your practices will be mild, moderate, intense according to that. So आप सोच लीजिए, हमारे लिए है पूरा का पूरा ओनस जो है वो हम पे डेवोटी पे डाल दिया गया है, योगी पे, एस्पायरिंग योगी पे डाल दिया गया है कि आप जिस स्पीड पे चाहेंगे ये पॉसिबल है. अब आप डिसाइड कीजिए कि आप क्या चाहते हैं. Okay, so interestingly, Swamiji here says, now when we talk of intense effort, or sincere, deep effort, so to the modern mind, intensity seems like tension. It is important not to let effort be defined by any tension, either physical or mental. So here it is important to know that in meditation, willingness is important. That is a joyful willingness and not a grim willpower, where you just force yourself to sit for nothing. In fact, by the end of your meditation, if you feel more tense and more disturbed, more restless, means you have missed out on a very, very important step of meditation, which is relaxation. And relaxation of the body and mind both are important. Relaxation of the body comes with energization exercises and of yogasanas, and relaxation of the mind comes with pranayam. So we must remember, if we feel that our meditations are very restless, if we feel that we feel more tense after we have sat for meditation, that means we are not relaxing ourselves truly, and without relaxation, no true meditation will be possible, leave alone the sense of samadhi. Okay. So Swamiji again in the last line, he just points out again, when he talks about sincerity, we said that the bhav of the heart, the feeling of the heart should be involved. And also this is mirrored in the first commandment of Jesus Christ, where he says, love the Lord thy God with all your heart, all your mind, all your strength, and all your soul. So let us remember that this is just not a line to be memorized, but this is to be lived. When Jesus says, love God with all your mind, that means single pointed concentration, which the yogis have described. When Christ says, love God with all your strength, so strength is the energy available to you. So when you can actually withdraw the energy from the outer world and focus it with meditation techniques in your spine and up the spine and the spiritual eye and offer to the infinite, that is loving God with all your strength. And loving God with all your heart means not keeping any desire or attachment other than toward God. So actually loving God with our entire being, and similarly doing yoga practice with our entire being, body, mind, heart, soul, strength, all that we are, we have to put it in this moment. And when that happens, automatically we will be taken towards the state of samadhi, because essentially that is the true nature of our Atmic self. Sutra 23. Ishvara pranidhana dve. So Ishvara we know is God. Pranidhana means worship or complete self-offering. And here, this is a beautiful sutra which says, so besides what has been said earlier about the effort, the sincerity, the mild, moderate, intense, now Patanjali says, otherwise, through devotion and complete self-offering to God, this highest samadhi can be attained. So here in this sutra, Patanjali is talking about the bhakti marg. So for those, we know that there are at least 4 pathways to God which have been defined by the Shastra. Although it is said that as many number of individuals there are, that many number of paths exist. But usually it has been found that most individuals are mixed in temperament. Some are more intellectually oriented, some are more introspective, some are more work oriented, some are more bhakti oriented, and some are more meditation or yoga oriented. So since we are a mix of temperaments, so here Patanjali has offered a ray of light for those who are of the heart and of the bhakti marg, and they want to just worship the deity, they want to offer themselves, he says, even by that you will attain this state of samadhi. But what our master has told us is that we need to practice all the margs in one way or the other. When we are working with the world, we need to do that with the attitude of a karma yogi. When we are worshipping and loving God, we need to surrender ourselves completely and maybe just cry out to the Lord. When we are being intellectual or discriminatory, we need to go within ourselves, we need to introspect and ask ourselves as to who am I? That would be the Jnana Marg. And of course, our master has told us to meditate regularly, which is the Raja Yoga Marg. So we as as we call ourselves modern day citizens, we need to practice all of these, because in a day, all of these activities are part of our life already. So to maximize our effort on the spiritual path, we need to do all of that little bit. So just enhancing on this sutra, which talks about devotion and self-surrender, Swamiji says, devotion to God is prescribed as one of the means to attain samadhi. Extreme devotion makes the aspirant surrender completely to God. He sees everything as a manifestation of God. Every activity is seen as the will of God. The attribution of everything and every activity to God make the worshipper not to bother about anything or about any activity. According to him, no activity is good or bad. He finds nothing favorable or unfavorable because there is no need for any judgment. So in a way, bhakti also helps you to rise above your likes and dislikes, your passions, your attachments and aversions, because you as a devotee, you think that everything is being given to you by God, and therefore you are no one to judge, and you just need to do your duty with love. A complete dispassion toward anything is the result of such surrender. Nothing has the capacity to disturb his mind to make any modification. So once your mind is settled in love, once your mind is not judging anything, but just accepting everything as the will of God, then automatically your chitta will be brought to the state of niruddha. There will be no new vrittis, no modifications, and no reactions. And then you will therefore move towards the state of samadhi. Samadhi is reached automatically by such surrender. Besides Ishvara Pranidhana, Swamiji adds that here what helps us most as disciples of a great guru is attunement with the guru. Attunement with the guru helps us to surrender to God. How? Because actually it is the guru who introduces us to God. When we were not on the spiritual path, sometimes we had this doubt that, oh my God, there is so much suffering in the world. Does God even exist? So it is the guru who comes in our lives and points us that God does exist and how to connect with him, how to commune with him, how to know him. So it is he who introduces us to God. It is he who teaches us how to connect with God. And eventually it is his grace which helps us to go into that state of oneness with samadhi, because he kind of opens a ray of frequency in this universal ether from which his disciples can enter into that blissful state. So attunement with the guru is a very, very important concept, not just a concept. It is something to be lived by on a daily basis. And that happens as you meditate more. If you're not able to meditate, maybe you can look into the eyes of Vivekananda and you can offer your questions or queries to him. You can chant his name again and again. You can simply chant Om Guru all the time. You can sing to him, and he already knows. He's already in your heart. He already knows what you need and want. But by offering yourself, you bring clarity to yourself. He knows what's best for you, but you don't know. So if we want to know what's best for us, we just need to open our heart and offer ourselves to him, and he holds our hands and takes us into the divine gate, into that freedom, into that bliss. Sutra 24. Klesha Karma Vipak Ashayah Purna, Asampratah Purna Vishesha Ishvaraha. Now, this is a very, very interesting sutra because this sutra defines God. How? So, klesha means affliction, karma is action, vipaka is the effects or the fruits of action, asavyaha is the resting place or the impressions, aparamastha, untouched, purusha, self, atman, vishesha, special, ishvara, God. So here, what is being said is that Ishvara is that special Purusha, untouched by misery, the results of actions, or desires. Swamiji says, Ishvara is the supreme self, unaffected by any affliction, means klesha, karma, action, consequences of those actions, and impressions of desire. So, in a sense, we are all gods because Purusha is living in us. Purusha is living through us. But the Purusha, when gets identified with the body and plays the role through the ego, is kind of affected by karma, affected by the fruits of karma, affected by the kleshas, and affected by desires and attachments. But it is being said here, then who is God? God is Purusha in us, but in us, he's become identified with the body and identified with the role that we are playing. But God is that special Purusha, means that Purusha which is not affected by all of these, that is by afflictions, by karma, by the results of karma, by any desires and any impressions thereof. And that is God. So this is a kind of a definition. Okay. So Swamiji, to explain, he says, the ordinary being, that is you and me, we live in ignorance, which causes the Purusha in us to identify with the body. This causes the Purusha, through living through the ego, to experience pain and grief because of the actions and the results of those actions and the impressions thereof. God is a special kind of being who has no ignorance, hence no suffering of pain and grief, is not affected by action, its fruits and the latent impressions. This is the state of consciousness of the Supreme Self. Now we, as aspiring towards this state, we should try to maintain our own consciousness as high as possible. When afflictions come to us, we should accept them and not think of them as affecting us. We should, in fact, Swamiji says, not see them as afflictions, in means not painful itself. Now, this is a very, very, very difficult thing. We'll come to a question here. And then Swamiji says, when the blows of karma strike in our life, no matter how heavy the blow, we should not lament, but rather welcome their freeing influence. While we are forced to undergo the pains of karmic consequence, like receiving an unfair demotion or being falsely accused of something or being afflicted, unjustly by harsh criticism, we should not meet such unfortunate occurrences with irritation, anger, moods, and so on. We should be cheerful and accepting of the situation, as is God, because God is not affected by these things. Therefore, we must try over a period of time abhyasa and vairagya towards all these things in our life. When desires arise in the mind, we should tell ourselves, it is not I who have this desire, it is merely the power of Maya acting through me. We are children of God and should conduct our lives in that consciousness, even if we are still, for the present, steeped in delusion. So intellectually हम ये समझ रहे हैं कि हम delusion में हैं और हमें हमारी desires और attachments हैं, लेकिन हम intellectually ये भी समझ रहे हैं कि God is that being who is beyond all of this, and our true state and our goal therefore is being in that state. Therefore हमें अभ्यास क्या करना है, हमने पहले भी बताया था कि to be centered in ourselves, not to react immediately, but to respond appropriately, to go within rather than to go outward, which is our normal impulse. So we need to practice these things so that we can move more towards our potential as God. So I want to ask this question to you. Now here Swamiji says, we should not see afflictions as afflictions. So my question to everybody is, what is the role of pain in our life? Why did God make pain in the first place? And is pain good or it is bad in a low sense or high sense, or however, whatever your thoughts about it are? Let us share these thoughts with everyone. So anybody would like to share their view on pain?
Ma'am, I would like to share.
Yes, Ekta.
So I think that pain is good.
Pain is good. Okay.
The reason is, yes, the reason is if we see from a temporary perspective, we will feel that no, the pain, we should not have pain, it gives sorrow. But if we look at a higher level, which I generally practice these days, that if something, some situation come which I feel it is painful, then after a few minutes I realize that, oh, thank you God for giving me this pain, so that I am again, you know, अगर अभी मैं माया मोह में थी तो मुझे याद आ गया कि अरे ये दुनिया जो है, it is painful, I have to get out of it. So it is like जैसे भगवान जी आपको पिंच कर रहे हैं कि उठ जाओ बेटा, ये इससे बाहर निकलो. तो अगर हम पेन को इस एंगल से देखें तो हम ये पेन बहुत अच्छा है.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you, Ekta. Wonderful sharing. Thank you so much. Okay. Anybody else wanted to share?
Hi.
Hi. Yes, Dr. Jyoti. Please go on.
Hi, Om Guru. So I just wanted to say and reiterate what Ekta said. I think it's a time that God reminds us to reflect and go inwards, which sometimes we don't realize. We may have become, more outward and more engrossed in this whole Maya. And it is at that point painful. I mean, it is good, but it is definitely very painful. But I think that is the only way we also wake up and learn and then introspect. And that helps us to rise higher and understand the value of the practice and of meditation and the legacies that we have. So I think it's a nice way of balancing, and it's a love of the Father, the larger I with the smaller I, like you said, to remind the smaller I to become a part of that larger one. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Anjali, you also wanted to say something?
Radhika ji, more or less the same idea, but my thoughts are from the Raja Yoga book that we had, and according to that book, it is mentioned there that when God created humans, He created us in His image, and immediately after separation, humans emerged back into God, and then again God created humans, but now He created a veil of Maya so that that separateness should stay there. Now when over a period of time God realized that humans are so enmeshed in the worldly pleasures, that was the time that the pain was introduced. So it was more of a reminder call that this is just a veil and your true identity is and with that of the God. So it's a knock back that where the right path is. So look on the other way rather than where you are focused at as of now. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali. ये सब जितनी बातें हमने कही है ना, ये कहने तो बहुत आसान है, लेकिन जब when we are in the middle of the pain, now that's the time when we are in great difficulty and we do not understand. But if we are devotees, if we are aspiring yogis, तो अब हमने आगे करना क्या है? अब जब भी नेक्स्ट पेन आएगा, चाहे वो फिजिकल पेन है, मेंटल, इमोशनल, स्पिरिचुअल पेन, कोई भी पेन आएगा, तो अब हम पॉज करेंगे, हम ये क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे कि ये पेन क्यों आया है, what would have been its possible source, and we try to eradicate that. Simply speaking, फिजिकल पेन जब आता है, फिजिकल पेन इज सो इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर आवर सर्वाइवल. अगर पेन बिल्कुल ही नहीं होता तो हम बिल्कुल पेनफुल स्टिमुलाई को पहचान नहीं पाते, विच कुड हैव बीन एक्चुअली कॉज द डेथ ऑफ द बॉडी. सो हम क्या करते हैं, जब शरीर में दर्द होता है तो हम डॉक्टर के पास जाते हैं, या हम देखते हैं कि हमारे हैबिट पैटर्न में क्या परेशानी है, या डाइट है जो हम चेंज करना चाहते हैं, एंड सो ऑन. सो वी kind of just don't keep crying when you're in the middle of the pain. Just analyze, this pain is coming because God wants my attention to shift to the cause of this suffering. So then you go to the doctor and you get yourself treated, and however much that is treated, eventually when mental pain comes, physical pain के behind एक mental pain होता है, तो तब आपको अपने आप से ये प्रश्न पूछना है कि मेरा माइंड में पेन क्यों है. Was I expecting this world to be different than what it is right now? Am I suffering because of that? Because I'm attached to my own opinions and my way of thinking, that when something else presents itself, I'm like totally shaken up and I'm not able to think correctly, and so on. So we pause. Similarly, when emotional pain comes, again we ask ourselves, if there is pain in my heart, that means probably I was desiring something which did not happen the way I wanted it to happen. I am so attached to something that I just don't want to let go, and that is why I'm in pain. I am expecting people to behave in a certain way and they are not behaving, and therefore I am in pain. So again, the simple thing in the center of the pain would be pause, to introspect and to see, ask, why am I in emotional pain? The cause usually is within me only. Why am I in mental pain? Now for physical pain, Master said it's not necessarily that you are the cause always, because in this world there are going to be many germs and there are going to be accidents and there are going to be all these things. But eventually even all these things should lead you to the reality of who you are. So pain is nudging you towards God. Pain is nudging you towards that highest bliss. Therefore, from now on, it's kind of an oath that we take with ourselves, that every time I'm in pain, I'm going to check with myself. Am I thinking correctly? Am I feeling correctly? Am I doing whatever it needs to do to correct the physical pain? And the worst pain is that of not being able to connect with our own source, means ignorance. जो ये माया में अविद्या है, जिससे हम समझ नहीं पाते हम कौन है, भगवान कौन है, क्या है, और उसकी वजह से जो हमारा सेंस ऑफ अनफुलफिलमेंट है, इनकम्प्लीट फीलिंग है, वो बहुत कॉज ऑफ पेन रहता है. तो उसको ठीक करने के लिए हमारा एफर्ट निरंतर होना चाहिए, और इसके लिए हमारी गुरु ही हमारी हेल्प कर सकते हैं. तो वो ज्ञान के मार्ग से या कर्म के या भक्ति से या मेडिटेशन से वो हमारी हेल्प करते हैं कि हम इस स्पिरिचुअल पेन से राइज करें और हम वननेस में जाएं. क्योंकि once the spiritual pain is kind of dealt with, once your ignorance has turned into knowledge, then all the other pains will start to vanish. And even when, now we know that so many great saints who were in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, who were one with God, had many and immense physical disabilities, had immense physical problems. Many had cancers, many had nerve issues, many were blind, and so on and so forth. But their physical pain was not a cause of their suffering. So pain is kind of a reality in this existence, but the choice whether we suffer from it or not, that lies completely with us. And when we remove mental, emotional, and spiritual pain by spiritual endeavors, then the physical pain also ceases to bother us at some point in time. So our endeavor should again be to attune ourselves with the Guru, to surrender ourselves to God, to do all the practices single-pointedly, regularly, sincerely, with all our heart, mind, body, and strength, and to just be in this moment and give our best, give of ourselves completely without holding anything back. If we are able to do that, automatically, Guruji or God is our gardener, the spiritual evolution, samadhi, will automatically blossom out of our being, and we won't have to strive so much. जो इतना striving है वो ease में convert हो जाएगा, सहज हो जाएगा, और जिसको एक तरह से सहज समाधि भी कहा जाता है. So we realize, and that's one of the most important takeaways from today, is that pain is a very, very useful phenomenon. It becomes useful only when we pause and we introspect and we try to remove the source of pain and along with self-offering. The next sutra, which is sutra number 25, says, Tatra Nirittashayam Sarvagya Bijam. Iska Sarvagya Bijam, sorry. So iska kya matlab hai? Tatra is that special being. So remember that in the last sutra, Patanjali was describing God as being beyond all suffering and beyond all action. So here he is saying, Tatra, in that special being, Nirattishayam means unsurpassed, Sarvagya, all-knowing omniscience, Bijam is seed. So what this means is, in him is fully developed the seed of omniscience. So simply, in other words, it is said that God is omniscient. He is all-knowing. All things, even the smallest atom, contain that seed. Evolution is the manifestation of consciousness as it expands to reclaim its place of origin in omniscience. Now, if we talk about ourselves as limited human beings, from that perspective, all of us are infinite, all of us are eternal, but when we are identified with the body and mind complex, we are become limited. And in that state, the knowledge is limited to predominantly what we gather from the senses. So whatever data is coming from the senses, then the play of the memory is there and play of the intellect is there. All of that causes us to have limited knowledge. If the seed of all-knowing or omniscience, it begins developing in a person, they start to perceive things beyond the senses. So we have all known with yoga practice, with Kriya Yoga and meditation practice, that yes, by deep meditation, we can perceive, the intuition starts to develop, and we can easily perceive things which are beyond the senses. For example, this is true for everybody. You enter into a room, there are a few people, and you can immediately judge what is the atmosphere, whether it's a joyful place, a sorrowful place, whether people are criticizing each other, whether people are gossiping, or the topic is finance, politics, all of that. Immediately as you enter a room, you can feel, without anybody even saying a word in front of you, without the agency of the senses. ये सबको पता चल जाता है. So there is a knowledge which is beyond the senses, and as you meditate and regularly and deeply, you touch that zone where you can intuitively know what the other person is thinking or feeling. It's not like the exact thought that you know the other person is having, which of course is true as you keep progressing, and of course the masters know about all thoughts of all people. But as you progress, you slowly start to feel it out as to what the other person might be thinking and feeling, and this is transferred not through the senses. So here, this is a beginning of omniscience. So beyond your body brain complex, you are starting to feel, you are starting to perceive, and therefore you are expanding beyond the limits of the body and mind. Mind means brain. When we say mind, some people can say it's cosmic mind or individual mind. So when we say limited state, we could talk of it as the individual mind rather than the cosmic mind. So hence the omniscience includes both the knowledge perceived by the senses as well as the knowledge perceived beyond the senses. It is said that the seed of omniscience of the yogi is growing stage by stage. For the special being or God, the seed of omniscience is at the maximum grown level. And this sutra therefore can be simply interpreted as God is the source of all knowledge, which cannot be surpassed. Okay. So God is beyond afflictions, God is beyond karma, God is beyond impressions, and God is the source of all knowledge, and that knowledge cannot be surpassed. Sutra 26. Sa purvesham api guru kalena anavichedata, meaning unconditional or not limited by time. He or God is the supreme instructor of even the most ancient of teachers. So in the previous sutra, Patanjali said that he is omniscient, he is not surpassable in knowledge. And now in the next sutra, he is saying, because he is unconditioned by time, he is the supreme teacher of all teachers that exist, that have existed in the past, present, or will exist in the future. So he is the instructor or the teacher of all teachers. And that is why it is said God is the Adi Guru. Whenever anybody praised Yogananda, so he always said God is the Guru. And that is the truth, because God, Guru, the self are actually one and the same thing. But because we are limited in a human body, we want to see the Guru in a limited human body. And from there we start, and eventually we come to the realization that all is one, that Guru is but the spoken voice of the silent God. Okay, so a little expands on this, just few lines. It is true that all knowledge is within ourselves, but this has to be called forth by another knowledge. Knowing beings, teachers, they must be with us to call forth what is in us. We need the Guru to kind of mirror what is within us and to bring it out from us. As these teachers were always necessary, so no knowledge was possible without them. Therefore, Guru के बिना गति नहीं है, ये हमें शुरू से सिखाया गया है और यही सत्य है. तो जब हम गुरु के मिरर में हम अपने आप को देखते हैं, तो गुरु उसमें हमारी रिफ्लेक्शन को संवारते हैं और हमारे को लिटिल सेल्फ से आत्मिक सेल्फ तक लेके जाते हैं. God is the teacher of all teachers, because these teachers, however great they may have been, gods or angels, they were all bound and limited by time. And God is not limited by time. That one teacher who is not limited by time, who is infinite knowledge without beginning or end, is called God. Okay. Now the last sutra for the day, and a very interesting one, Sutra 27. This says, Tasya Vachak Priva, Pranava. Tasya means his, Vacha means word or term, Pranava means the sound of Om. So this is how Swamiji has explained this. This is the expression of Ishvara, is the sound of Om. His manifesting word is the Pranava, Om. So if we see it differently, it is said, what is Om? The Om is that vibratory sound, which is the sound of the machinery of this universe. We all know this theory of how from the absolute stillness, God, when he created, he started vibrating. And when anything vibrates, it has an accompanying sound, and that sound is the sound of Om. It is the sound of all creation. And when we talk of the human throat or human speech, we realize that as we say Om, that is A-U-M, Om, Akar, Ukar, Makar, the sound begins from our larynx, and then it comes to the lips and ends with Ma, which is the lips. So the whole soundboard is used, and therefore the entire speech mechanism, and it is said all languages are derived from the sound of Om, is because the human expression through speech, the Om vibration covers it all. And of course, Om vibration is the vibration of all creation. So here what is being said is that Om is the name of Ishvara. Om is the sound of the Lord. The word Pranava means the cosmic sound of the universe. It is not mystic or mysterious, but it is hidden from our physical ears. Om can be heard in meditation. It is the vibration which made possible the manifestation of the whole universe. When the Supreme Spirit Purusha decided to produce creation, it caused the storm of Maya or delusion to blow over the surface of the vast ocean of consciousness. Thus appeared the waves of duality. Those waves, vibrations on the vast ocean, produced everything in outward existence. Now, science declares that matter is only a vibration of energy, but our ancient seers in India, they declared that energy is a vibration of thoughts, And those thoughts are only vibrations of the consciousness, the ocean of consciousness. And in Om, A represents Brahma, U represents Vishnu, Ma represents Shiva. So when creation comes, first it has to be created, then it has to be sustained, and then it has to be dissolved back. So the sound of Om consists of all these three deities and all that they represent. Om, which is heard in meditation, is like a steady low hum, growing in intensity as one's meditation deepens, until its vibration seems to rumble throughout the body. To listen to Om is an advanced yoga technique and one properly received in person from a qualified instructor. The Om sound is universal. All over the world, people of different religions have realized this Om. For Christians, Mohammedans, and Jews, they call it Amen or Amin. The Zoroastrians or Parsis, they called it Ahura Mazda. And then the Upanishads have given the importance of Om. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, it is said that he who utters Om with the intention that I shall attain Brahman does verily attain Brahman. The Mandukya Upanishad says, the self is of the nature of the syllable Om. Meditate on Om as the self. And in the Bhagavad Gita, we have read that Krishna says in chapter 7, he says once, I am the syllable Om. And then in another place, chapter 10, he says, among all words, I am Om. So dear friends, this means that the Om sound is the representation of God himself. And every time we utter Om, we are actually calling upon God. And it can be said that it is the word of God, or it is the name of God, it is a representation of God. And it actually includes all that God is. Now, to hear the sound of Om, as it is said, that we need special techniques. It is taught on the path of Kriya Yoga, and then we must practice it regularly to hear it. So Swamiji says it's a continuous rumbling sound. We know that different chakras in our astral spine have different sounds, which are also subparts of the Om sound. Just to revise that, we know that the sound of the Muladhara is the sound of the bumblebee, or like a running machinery. The sound of the Swadhisthana is that of Krishna's flute, or the sound of crickets. The sound of Manipur is the sound of veena or a harp. The sound of the Anahat or heart chakra is the gong or the bell. The sound in the throat chakra is like, the wind rustling through the leaves in a forest. Then the sound in the medulla and the Agya chakra is the sound of a rolling thunder or a sound of flowing water. And this is basically the sound of Om. So if you hear any of these sounds, as you are meditating, focus deeply on that sound. And this sound is going to eventually lead you to the rumbling sound of Om, which you will feel to be present not only in your body, but extending out from your body and in oneness with everything that is around you. And this is kind of what is called the Om Samadhi, when you know and you feel with direct realization that that sound of Om is omnipresent and that you are but a part of it. With that thought, my dear friends, we shall sit and pray together. Okay, I have a question. What is the sound of Shankh? Shankh is also the sound of Anahat. The bell, the gong, or the Shankh represents the Anahat chakra. Okay, so let us share the beautiful vibrations of the great scriptures of God, his sound of Om, with all in need of healing. Let us pray together. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, all hearts, and all souls. Oh. 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 Divine Mother, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you, dear friends, and Jai Guru to all.